Okay, we're starting on the bottom of the page of Mem Amud Sheni. Now let me just make that bigger. Amarava. Just as the Gemara begins with a side point. We just learned yesterday that Maisa Sheni, right? If you have Maisa Sheni fruits, or Maisa Sheni money. That's the more appropriate term. Let's say you have Maisa Sheni money that you're supposed to bring it up to Jerusalem, buy food with it, and eat it in Yerushalayim. So you're allowed to exchange it onto a behema, to an animal, live animal. But the Rameir says whether it's live, whether it's slaughtered, you're allowed to exchange the kedusha from the Maisa Sheni money onto the slaughtered animal. And a live animal. Chachamim say you can only do it on slaughtered animals, but not on live animals. And why not live animals? Because there's a gzeira that you're going to buy a live animal with your Maisa Sheni, and you're going to want it for offspring. You're going to keep it alive for a long period of time. And Maisa Sheni has a period of time where you must get rid of it. Either you eat it in Jerusalem or burn it. There's a time in the fourth year actually, where you have to make vidu maisris. So you tell Hashem that I did what I was supposed to do with my Maisa Sheni. Either I ate it or burned it. And therefore, if we allow a person to store it onto buying live animals, it's going to grow into a flock of sheep, and therefore he's never going to want to destroy it. Amarava, so that was, but Rameir says you can do it on live animals. So Amarava, Rava said, the machlekes was only bizcharim. Whether I can transfer the kedusha of Maisa Sheni on a male animal, a male sheep. Aval b'nekevos, here we're on top of Mem Aleph Amar Aleph. Aval b'nekevos on a female animal. The din is divri hakol. Everybody would agree. Shchutin mischalin. You can only exchange it on a slaughtered nekeva, female animal. Al chayin on a live animal. Ein mischalin. You don't exchange it on a live animal. We are afraid that maybe you're going to grow flock with it, and you're not going to want to get rid of it in time. So that qualifies the machlokes between Rab Meir and the Chachamim, that they're only arguing on Zecharim, on male animals. But by Nekevas, even Rab Meir would agree that you can only transfer the Kedusha on slaughtered animals and not live animals. Okay, we're going to get through this sugya, but this is the main point. Amar Ravi Ashi, just to get back to that machlokes before, very simple. We had a machlokes regarding Shemitah fruits. Rabbi Lazar said that Shemitah fruits can extend the Kedusha onto money only through a sale. Ela derech mekach, right? Rabbi Yochanan said, bein derech mekach, whether you're doing it through a sale, bein derech chilul, or whether you just take fruits of Shemitah and say to the money right next to it, I want the Kedusha of this Shemitah money to transfer over to the money. Rabbi Yochanan says it's permitted. So comes along the Gemara, and Rav Ashi says something that he heard, and then he's going to change it. First, Rav Ashi says, Amar Rav Ashi, machlekes bepri rishon. The machlekes is only on the first fruit. In other words, the Shemitah fruit. Rab Lezer says you can only transfer the Kedusha to money via a sale. And Rabbi Yochanan said you can transfer it just by saying, I want to transfer the Kedusha to the money. Aval bepri-sheni, but what happens pre-sheni means the second fruit, the second derivative, which is the money. Once you already transferred the kedusha onto the money, divrei hakol, everybody would agree, bein derech mekach, bein derech chilul. That doesn't matter. The money can be transferred, the kedusha can fall off the money via a sale and via even a chilul, which means I verbally say that I'm transferring the kedusha from the money to a third item. That everybody would agree it works in both cases, mekach and chilul. If you remember the brisa that wanted to give you examples of how kedusha is transferring, so what the brisa said before, you bought from the meat fish, and the fish you bought wine, from the wine you bought oil, and it keeps saying that you bought it. Really, you didn't have to buy it. You could just say, I'm transferring the kedusha from the meat to the fish. But I did the Tani Reisha Lachach, since the first from the first fruits to the meat, which was the first derivative, we said the word bought it. Taninami sefer lakach. So there also the end of the brisa keeps continuing with that thing that it only transfers kedusha only through a sale, not through a verbal saying that I want the kedusha to transfer. That's what Rav Ashi said. So Eseve Ravina Ravashi. Ravina asked a question on Rav Ashi's premise. We learned in a brisa like this: Mi sheyesh le'sela shel shvius. A person has, let's say, $100 of Shemitah money. Okay, that's called the derivative. That's the derivative, first derivative after the fruits. He has the money. Ubikesh likach by cholok, and he wants to use the money to buy a talus with it. Okay. So now, if it's Shemitah money, you can't buy a talus. You have to buy food with it. You have to eat it. Ketzad ya'aseh, what should you person do? So yelech etzah chenvoni harogel etzloi. He should go. Now, the obvious question over here is, the first thing to do, if you have money from Shemitah money, just take the money and the money and say, I'm transferring the kedusha of this money onto food. And then now the money is chulin money. I can do whatever I want with it. But the brisa goes ahead and gives you another idea. Go to the merchant that knows you, and will do you this favor. In other words, in order to transfer the kedusha off the money, the brisa holds that you have to do it via a sale. And you tell the merchant like this, the fruit man, tenli besela, take my money, peros, fruits, venoisonly, and give it to me. So you take the $100 and you buy fruits, and now the fruits have kedusha shmita. The money lost the kedusha because now it's in the hands of the storekeeper. Then you go back. So now they transferred the kedusha transfer via a sale. And then you go back and tell him, here, Mr. Fruit Man, I'm giving it to you as a present. Or now it's shmita fruits, have it back. And the fruit man agrees that he's going to keep the kedusha shmita on those fruits. He's going to use it for himself or whatever, but he's going to maintain the kedusha on the fruits. And the fruit man, the seller, says to him, "Hey, take your money back as a present." By law, now he has the money that doesn't have any kedusha shmita on it. He got his original money back. And you buy whatever you want. So now that's the summary of our questions. Why did you have to, in our case, the prishenihi? You started off with a second derivative. A second derivative means you started off with money of Shemitah money, ukutani, and the only way to take off the kedusha off that money was derech mekach only through via sale. Derech chiluloi, by a transfer, a verbal transfer wouldn't have worked. The only idea that the brisa comes up is through a sale, not through a verbal statement that you're transferring the kedusha. So how did Rav Ashi say that by prisheni everybody would agree, divrei hakol, not through a sale and through verbally transferring the money, transferring the kedusha? We see this price, it wouldn't work. Ella Amar Rav Ashi revises what he heard and what he wants to teach. He says, Machloikis b'prisheni. The machloikis is by the second derivative. Do you need a sale, or can you verbally transfer the money? Right? Can you verbally transfer the money? And maybe this brisa would not agree to Rabbi Yochanan. But Rabbi Yochanan also has a brisa that agrees to him. Aval b'pri rishon, by the first derivative, divrei hakol derech mechach in derech hilaloi. Even Rabbi Yochanan, who holds a verbal transfer of kedusha, works by the first fruit. It only works through a sale and not through verbal transaction. So the first fruit that you pick from the Shemitah, everybody would agree that the only way the kedusha goes on to money is only via a sale, not through a verbal statement. That it says in the brisa, echad shvius v'echad masasheni, can transfer through verbally. There's a brisa that says shvita and masasheni can transfer through a verbal expression. So Shemitah, like Ma'aser Sheni fruits, you verbally can transfer it onto money. The brisa seems to apply Shemitah fruits, you can verbally transfer the kedusha onto money. So the Gemara says, "My shvius." What does that brisa mean? Shemitah, the May shvius. It's talking about the second derivative, the money of shvius. Verbally can be transferred to a third derivative, but the original fruit cannot be transferred via a verbal statement. If you don't say that this brisa was talking about the money of Shemitah, Maisa Mamish, is the brisa really talking about the first derivative, the Maisa fruit itself? The brisa says that Maisa Sheni can be transferred over to a live animal. Wait a second. The Torah says Maisa Sheni fruits have to first be transferred over to money, and then you can do whatever you want with it. The Maisa Sheni has to be first turned into money, and then you can turn whatever you want in it. Want with it. Elo, so must be that the brisa is definitely discussing Demei Meiser, the money of Maisa Sheni. So also, Hachanami, the brisa is talking about Demei Shvius, the money of Shvius. In the money of Shvius, which is a second derivative, yes, the brisa says, which is concurs with Rabbi Yochanan Shita, that you can transfer the Kedusha via a verbal statement. But Shemitah, the first fruit, even Rabbi Yochanan would agree that you can't just take a Shemitah fruit and say, I want the Kedusha to transfer over to money. Because you think about that. Imagine you're going to Israel and you go into a fruit store, a non-from fruit store, and you buy fruits on Shemitah next year. And you imagine if you could say, oh, it's Shemitah fruits, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to transfer it over to a couple of dollars in my pocket, and the Kedusha will be in the money in my pocket. Everybody agrees that doesn't work. Look the Mishnah. Be back to lulav. In the base of Migdash, the lulav was taken every single day of Sukkot because it says Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokechem shivas yomim. The Torah says lifnei Hashem Elokechem, in front of the Eibishter, which means in the base of Migdash you're supposed to take the lulav for 7 days. Uvamdina, but outside the base of Migdash, Yom Echad, you take it 1 day because it says Lakachtem lechem b'yom harishon. So there's a duality in this mitzvah. Outside the base of Migdash, you take the lulav 1 day. If you happen to go into the base of Migdash, there's a mitzvah there that the lulav is supposed to be taken 7 days. There is an opinion of the Rambam, it's worth to note, that he says that Bamigdash includes Jerusalem, and Bamedina means anything outside Jerusalem. So according to the Rambam, even Bizman Hazeh, there would be a mitzvah to take your lulav and esrog for 7 days. Mishachar Beis Hamikdash, after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a new rule. Shehei lulav nita bamdina shiva. Wherever you are, you should take the lulav, the entire yontiv of Sukkot, for 7 days. Zeicha, to remember Lamigdash, what went on in the Beis Hamikdash, where we took our lulav and esrog for all 7 days. That was the first takana that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai established after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Then he also established V'shiyehei Yom Henef Kulei Osar, the day of Chalamoid Pesach, when normally on Chalamoid Pesach, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, they would bring a minchas ha'omer. In other words, they would take barley and make it very, very special barley and put some of it on the mizbeach. That was called the hakrovas ha'omer. And that allowed you to eat the new crop of the 5 grains that were grown. That's called chodesh. It was the new grains that was grown after Rosh Hashanah till the first day of Chalamoid Pesach. Then, after they brought that carbon, then and that mincha, you were allowed to eat the chodesh. So now, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, when did the permissible period start? After the carbon was brought. But when the Beis Hamikdash was not around, actually, you could eat technically, min Torah, you were allowed to eat from the morning of Chalamoid Pesach, you could start eating your chodesh, your new crop, and actually cutting your new crop on the first day of Pesach, because there's no Beis Hamikdash, so you can enjoy the new fruit, you can enjoy the new crop right away in the morning. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came along and said, no, you should wait till the end of the day. The whole day should be usher to eat. You have to wait till the second day, Chalamoid Pesach, and we'll see why in the Gemara. So first of all, the Gemara says, "Menolon Davidin Zeichel Migdash." How do you know you're supposed to make a remembrance to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and to remind ourselves how it was, how was the service done in the Beis Hamikdash? And that was the basis of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's a rule, takana. Rabbi Yochanan said, the Amakra, we have a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Ki ala arucha lach. The Torah, the Navi describes, I'll restore your health, umi mekasayach erpoech, and from your afflictions and wounds and sicknesses, I will bring about healing. Nu'um Hashem, so says God. God is talking to the people of Jerusalem. Kinidacha karolach, because you're downcast. People were calling you downcast, down and out. Tzion here, doirish ein la. Nobody pays attention to her. So from this pasuk, doirish ein la, miklal de boyadrisha, that you should pay attention. You should always remind yourself on how it was in the Beis Hamikdash. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai established that in outside the Beis Hamikdash, we take our lulav for 7 days. The next Gemara says, V'shehei yom henef kuli asa. The whole day of Chalamoid Pesach, you're not allowed to eat the new chodesh, the new grain, the new crop. You have to wait till the second day Chalamoid Pesach. So the Gemara says, "My Tama, what should be the reason?" Min HaTorah, as explained to you, since you don't have a Beis Hamikdash, right away, the first day of Chalamoid, as soon as sunrise comes, you should be able to eat the new grain. So the answer is, very interesting answer. Nehera Yabana Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash will be built someday very quickly. V'yomru, and people will say, imagine the Beis Hamikdash was built this year. V'yomer, and people will say, Eshtakei, last year, mi lo yechalni be'er mizrach, I ate my new crop right away in the morning. And so, even after the Beis Hamikdash, this practice is going to continue. Hashtaname nechal. So this year, I'm going to eat the new crop right away in the morning. The inu layade, but the people are not going to know that there's a big difference. The Eshtakei last year, the loy have a Beis Hamikdash, that you didn't have the Beis Hamikdash. Heir mizrach mitar. As soon as sunrise occurred, you were permitted to eat the new crop. So, but hashta the ika Beis Hamikdash. But then the following year, when you do have the Beis Hamikdash, oimer mate, you would have to have wait to the oimer, because the Torah says b'yom habi achem es oimer hatnufa. That's when you could eat the new the new crop. So when the Beis Hamikdash is around, you would have to wait till the oimer. So therefore, he said the whole day should be asur. So the Gemara says, well, wait a second. The ibana emas. When do you think the Beis Hamikdash will be built? Ilema the ibana b'shitzer. It was built on the first day of Chalamoid. Somehow the Beis Hamikdash was rebuilt in one day on the first day of Chalamoid. Wait a second. But at the start of the day, you didn't have a Beis Hamikdash. Harei hitter heir mizrach. Right away, you were allowed to eat the new crop as soon as sunrise, because in the beginning of the 16th day of Nisan, you didn't have the Beis Hamikdash. So you were allowed to eat from sunrise. Ella, what's your concern? The Ibani Bechameser was built in the 15th day, or let's say it was built in Rosh Chodesh Adar, much before. So then, Bechatzois Hayom Ulahalan Tishrei, then from 12 o'clock noon and on, we should permit everybody to eat the chodesh, the new crop. Why? Because even when the Beis Hamikdash was around and they didn't have the communication, everybody knew Datnam Harachoikim, those that were far away from the Beis Hamikdash, Mutarim Mechatzos Yom Lahalim, were permitted anyway to enjoy the new crop from midday of Chalamoid Pesach and beyond. Why? Because I can assume that the Omer Bezdin certainly made sure that the oimer was brought in the morning or sometime before noon. So from noontime, everybody was permitted to eat the new crop. Because Bezdin's not lazy, they're very diligent, they get things done quickly. So why did Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that the whole day should be asur? He should say it should be asur till midday, just like it was when the Beis Hamikdash was around. So the Gemara says a fascinating teretz. Loi tzricha, I need it. I need Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai to come to tell me that the whole day of the first day of Chalamoid Pesach, it's also to eat the new crop. Why? Because I'm concerned, the Ibani Beleli, that the Beis Hamikdash will be built the night of the 16th, the night before, Inami Samach L'Shkiyas HaChama, or right before Shkiyas HaChama, even during the first day of Pesach. And there's not going to be enough time to prepare the barley for the Omer, because the barley from the Omer was prepared with great fanfare and great meticulous observance to make it a very, very fine offering to Hashem. And that took a lot of time. Usually they began the process the night before. But if the night before you're building the Beis Hamikdash, there's going to be delay the next day till they actually bring the Omer. So it could be that if the Beis Hamikdash was built, came down, but on the 16th at night, you're not going to bring the Omer till much later in the afternoon. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, you know what? The whole day should be usher to eat from the new crop, because of that little concern that the Beis Hamikdash could be built at the wrong time, and we're not going to have enough time to bring the Omer. That's a teretz of the first teretz that the Gemara offers. I want to point out to you that Rashi at the bottom of the page here says a very famous question. The question is, how could the Beis Hamikdash be built on Yom Tiv, right? Even Chalamoid, we ain binyan Beis Hamikdash doichi Yom Tiv. We have a rule that you can't build the temple on Yom Tiv. And so how could the Beis Hamikdash, the third Beis Hamikdash, be built on Yom Tiv? So the answer is, Rashi says in his beautiful language, if it's a human construction, which is like the second Beis Hamikdash, then that's right, you can't build it on Yom Tiv. Alvo Migdash ha'asid she'onu mitzapim, the third Beis Hamikdash that we are hoping for, it's already built and completed in Shemayim, and it's going to come down from heaven. Shnema Migdash Hashem Kainenu Yadecha, the Migdash of God, which he in the third Beis Hamikdash is a Beis Hamikdash that God's hands so to built. That would be permitted to become down even on the Yom Tov of Sukkot of Pesach. The Gemara gives another possibility of why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that the whole day is Aser. So Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak said that the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's opinion is that the whole day, even during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, the Torah asked you to have the new crop the entire day, because Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai held b'shitas Rabbi Yehuda Amra, the Amar min HaTorah hu the Aser. From min HaTorah, it's Aser to eat the whole day, the new crop. The Ksiv, because the pasuk says, we go to Mem Aleph Omud Sheni, top of line, Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh, that you have to not eat the new crop until the beginning, until the day, till that a main part of that day. We darshan ad itzuma shayom, till the main part of the day, b'ksovar ad va'ad b'klal, including that day. So what the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda was that yes, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, when they brought the Omer, after the Omer, you could eat the new crop. When the Beis Hamikdash was not around, the Torah says you can't eat it ad etzem hayom hazeh, including that entire day. So it doesn't become permitted right away in the morning. It actually comes permitted as soon as the day is completed. So Rabbi Yochanan holds midairaisa, it was usher to eat when the Beis Hamikdash is not around. The whole day midairaisa, it's usher to eat from the new crop. So the Gemara just doesn't understand that, because from the Mishnah, and we'll see, the Mishnah implies that this was a new takana that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made of. Did Rabbi Yochanan hold like Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai argued Rabbi Yehuda, because we learned in the Beis Hamikdash, Mishachara Beis Hamikdash Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sheyehem henef kuli asar. The Mishnah says when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan made a rule that the whole day should be asar. Amalai Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda didn't live in the same generation of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, but when Rabbi Yehuda heard what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did, and from the language of the Mishnah, it implies that this was a brand new rule Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came up with. Rabbi Yehuda said, "V'loi min HaTorah also." That's also min HaTorah. The ksiv ad etzem hayom hazeh ad itzuma shel yom. It's also the entire day. So you, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, didn't need to make a takana. That's what Rabbi Yehuda told, or he didn't actually tell, but this is what Rabbi Yehuda had a misunderstanding with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So the answer, the Gemara says that's exactly it. Rabbi Yehuda had a misunderstanding what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came along. Rabbi Yehuda thought Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is midrabanan kamar. He made a new rule midrabanan, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda said it's also min HaTorah. Velohi, but it's not true. Midairaisa ka'amar. Really, even Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai agrees that it was also midaraisa. So wait a second, how could it be also midaraisa the whole day? Well, hiskin kamar, but the Mishnah says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made it up, made a new rule. So the Gemara says, my hiskin, what does it mean? He made up a new rule. Darash, he explained the pasuk And then the Hiskin established it that this is what the Torah meant. The Torah meant that when you don't have the Beis Hamikdash, the whole day is also to eat Chodesh. Not like what we previous law thought that ad v'lo ad b'chlal, and that from sunrise you can eat the new crop. No, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai relearned the pasuk to teach everybody that the Torah is telling you that the entire day is asur min ha-Torah. So two ways to explain the Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in the Mishnah. Is it a midrabanan and a concern of a small inkling of time when the Beis Hamikdash will be built and people will eat the Chodesh too early, or it's anyway asur midairaisa? Nuga Mishnah. Yom Tiv Harishan Shecholias B'Shabbos, the first day of Sukkot that fell out on Shabbos. Kol ha'am melichin as lulvei on the Beis HaKnesses. Every person would bring their lulav to shul. This was prior to them establishing that when the first day of Sukkot comes out on Shabbos, you don't carry your lulav. So this Mishnah holds that you do carry your lulav to the shul prior to Shabbos because you can't carry it on Shabbos. L'machras, the next day, mashkim muvon, you get up early. Kol echav echa makar shloi v'noitler. You recognize which one was yours. You go to your seat in your shul and you take your lulav and esrog the first day of Sukkot. Mipnei she'amru chachamim, because you can't take somebody else's esrog, because chachamim, it's not really the chachamim saying this. The chachamim publicized what the Torah meant to say, that ein adam yotzi dei chavasa b'yom tov rishon b'lulav shel chavera. On the first day of Yom Tov, you can't use your friend's lulav. It has to be your own lulav. That's why you have to be careful to go to your seat where you put your own lulav and esrog and take it from there. On the rest of Sukkot, you could fulfill your obligation with the lulav that belonged to your friend. That's the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi says, what happens? Yom Tov Shel Rishon Shechab Shcholias B'Shabbos. The first day of Sukkot comes out on Shabbos, and there's no erev or anything like that. V'shachach, and somebody forgot v'hoitzias lulav l'reshus harabim, and took the lulav out to the reshus harabim. And on Shabbos, Potter, he would not be obligated to bring a carbon, even though a normal shoygig on Shabbos, if you accidentally carry something on Shabbos, you carry out a book on Shabbos, right? So then you forgot it was Shabbos, you would be chayiv a carbon. Here, you brought your lulav out, you potter. Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion, what caused you to forget about Shabbos? Because you were busy with the mitzvah of lulav. Once you're busy with one mitzvah, and that caused you to be over the aveira of carrying on Shabbos, that exempts you from bringing a carbon for that transgression, b'shogeg, of carrying on Shabbos. How do I know that you have to own your lulav? How do I know that you have to own your lulav? The Tanya Rabban we learned in the Brisa. Torah says that all of you should buy a lulav. Very important halacha. That everybody has to buy their own lulav. In other words, you and your friend cannot chip in for one lulav. It has to be that you purchase your own lulav and esrog. We'll talk about it in a moment. Let's say there is no lulav and esrog for you to buy. But every person has to totally 100% own the lulav and esrog that he's going to be yotze with. Lochem, it has to be yours. Mishalachem, it has to be absolutely yours. Lahaitzi, to exclude a shashol, you can't borrow an esrog, a lulav and esrog. Vesagozel, you can't steal one. That's also anyway, mitzvah haba bavera. Mikan amru chachamim. From here, the Chachamim publicized, Ein Adam Yaitze de Chavasa B'Yam Tarishon Shchag B'Lavav Shechaveri Ela Im Kain Nesanu Loi B'Matana. You can't be Yaitze, fulfill your obligation on the first day of Sukkot with your friend's lulav unless he gives it to you as a gift. If he gives it to you as a gift, then it's permitted. So, like often, I remember as a kid, my father didn't buy me a lulav and esrog even after I turned bar mitzvah. We bought one lulav and esrog. When he was finished it and used it, he gave it to me as a gift, and as a gift, and now I totally owned it, and I was yotze my mitzvah, and then I returned it back to him. And the Gemara brings the exact same story. Ma'aseh Rabbi Gamliel. There was a story about Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azari, Rabbi Akiva. These five Tanoim were on a shayiboim basvina. They were on a ship on the first day of Sukkot. Very interesting. First day of Sukkot. There was only one lulav on the boat, and that belonged to Rabbi Gamliel, and he purchased that lulav for 1,000 zuz. The Toli Rabbi Gamliel, first day Yom Tov, Rabbi Gamliel took it, V'yatzabai, and fulfilled his obligation, and made a shechianu. And he gifted it to Rabbi Yeshua as a gift. Natali Rabbi Yeshua v'yatzabai. Rabbi Yeshua took it and fulfilled his obligation. Then he gave it to Nisani Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah b'matana. He gave it to Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah as a gift. Natali Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah v'yatzabai. He was yaitza. He fulfilled his obligation. Nisani b'matana Rabbi Akiva. Then finally Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah gave it as a gift to Rabbi Akiva. Natali Rabbi Akiva v'yatzabai. Rabbi Akiva took it and he was yaitza. The Hachziroi Rabbi Gamliel, and returned it back to Rabbi Gamliel. So ends the brisa. So we just want to explain a few words of the brisa. Why did you have to tell me that Rabbi Akiva returned it back to Rabbi Gamliel? I mean, that's obvious. Rabbi Akiva wouldn't keep this lulav. So go and esrig. So the Gemara says, Milsa al gav urche kamashmalan. He wants to teach you something along the way, a side point. That matana al manas lahachzir, if I give you a gift with the condition, and I make full condition with all the halachas of a condition, lahachzir, that you must return it to me, shma matana, that's considered a gift. So for the time being, it's completely yours, but you still have to fulfill the condition of returning it back to me. Rava said this statement. If someone says to his friend, "Hey, I'm giving you this esrog, but only on one condition, you must return it to me." So the Tali, if the person took it, v'yatza and fulfilled his obligation, hechziroi, if he returned it, yatza, then he was yatza. He fulfilled his obligation because it was 100% his as a gift. But lo yechziroi, if the end he doesn't return it, right? And so he'll say, no backseat, you gave it to me as a gift. Lo yatza, then it's considered not yatza because it is considered as if you stole it because you didn't fulfill the obligations in the verbal condition that you made. One more point.
Can I just go back a second with Rabbi Yossi? Just to clarify that he said that if it's first day of Shabbos on Sukkot, and the person forgot and he carried his lulav to the base of Mikdash, he would not have to bring a korban chatas. Is that it?
Right over here.
We never really learned that because even if it's shogeg, you still have to do a korban chatas. Isn't that like sort of extraordinary?
Yes, that's what I thought. It's like extraordinary. Look at right here, Rashi. Rabbi Yossi, ta'a b'davar mitzvah. If what caused you to err is because you were busy with a mitzvah, with shagag, and then you made the mistake, b'davar koris, something which means Shabbos, potter mikarbon. You'll be potter mikarbon. Because he's busy with this mitzvah, Rashi says, and he's too quickly. Shabbos. Because you're still thinking lulav, you forgot it's Shabbos. Very fascinating opinion.
It is. It's an exception because we always learned, even the whole idea of shogeg, you should have been more careful. It's a little negligent.
Right. It seems, I mean, we had this opinion once before in Psachim Ayin Beis Amud Beis. That seems, I'm looking at the side. Somehow it seems familiar. It wasn't in Shabbos.
We had it in Shabbos by bris, right? If there's a tinok shenimo on Shabbos by mistake, when it's not bo bayom,
right?
It's tov, but is it machlokas and perek?
Rabbi Lezer de Milo. 18, Rabbi Lezer de Milo, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's where it is. Same issue. There it's tov bar mitzvah because he thought he was doing it.
Is it written this opinion, Rabbi Yossi's opinion there? I'm not sure.
I gotta there. I don't think Rabbi Yossi's there.
Right. Yeah. I gotta remember that.
Alan, is this Rab Elazar? Eliezer?
Yes. Rabbi Eliezer. Yes.
Elazar.
Rabbi Eliezer de Mila. I think Eliezer.
So we don't pass him according to Rabbi Eliezer.
No, Rabbi Eliezer de Mila is nothing to do with this. Rabbi Eliezer de Mila is talking about.
No, I'm talking about.
He holds that there's no. You're not violating Shabbos if you're chopping a tree down to make a lulav to make a mila knife. But it could be the Gemara discusses carrying the child or something like that.
Right, carrying the knife.
Carrying the knife.
Or you make a mistake of a tinok who's 8 days old, 7 days, 9 days old, right?
Right.
Shabbos.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
You're mixing up the days.
Right, you
Give
mix
it-
up the days, and you mal too early or something like that.
So
you
you're
have
not
to give it
you're not chayav a chatas
a
then.
chatas because you're to Isaac bar mitzvah.
Oh,
Right, when it's not,
yeah.
normally has to be B'Yom HaShmini, and therefore it's
Mm.
that Tobit Var Mitzvah, because you thought you were doing the mitzvah, but it turned out you really weren't. So
Right,
that
Right.
right.
Let's
Interesting what she said. Okay.
let's finish to the bottom of the page. It's very simple. Lama lila meima shalakoy be'elav zuz. Why did the Brisa have to tell me that Rabbi Gamliel paid for this esrog 1,000 zuz? What's to teach you? Like to teach you kama mitzvahs chavivas aleim. How the mitzvahs was so beloved by them that he paid so much money for an esrog, and there must have been other people bidding him up. So alehen means not only on Rabbi Gamliel who paid so much money, but the people who pushed Rabbi Gamliel to maximize the purchase. So that's how they beloved the mitzvahs. Now the Gemara ends off with something fascinating, which you probably never heard of. Amalei Marbar Ameimer Ravashi. Marbar, the son of Ameimer, said to Ravashi, Abba, my father, my dad, Ameimar, Tsaluya Kamitzali Bey. He actually would daven Shem Nesri and Sukkot holding his lulav and esrog. That's how he davened Shem Nesri. He didn't want to leave off the lulav and esrog like tefillin. He wanted to hold on to it the whole day, like tzitzis. Meisvei, how could you daven? The Gemara asks a question: how are you allowed to davening holding the lulav and esrog? The Brisa says, "Lo yochel adam tefillin biyadai." You're not allowed to hold on to tefillin in your hand. The sefer Torah bechekoi, or sefer Torah against your hip or a lap. V'yispalel and daven Shem Nesri. You can't hold on tefillin because you're so nervous about the tefillin dropping from your hands. You can't concentrate on your Shemoneh Esrei. V'layashtim behen mayim. And once you're wearing tefillin, you can't urinate. V'layishim behen, v'layishim behen, v'layishenis keva, v'layishenis rai. You're not allowed to sleep with your tefillin, not a permanent sleep and not a temporary sleep. But the point here is you can't hold the tefillin and daven Shemoneh Esrei because you might drop it. So why are you allowed to hold a lulav and esrog? V'amar Shmuel said not only a tefillin, but sakin ukari, holding a knife or a piece of plate, kikar umois or bread or money, that's like holding tefillin. You can't hold anything in your hand besides the siddur when you're davening Shemoneh Esrei. So how is a meimer holding a lulav and esrog during his Shemoneh Esrei? So the answer is Hossam over there, lav mitzvah ninu. Holding a tefillin in your hand, you're not doing a mitzvah. Holding a plate or a knife or money in your hand, therefore utrid. Utrid bahu. You'll be disturbed by that in your Shemoneh Esrei. Hacha over here, the fact that you're holding a lulav and esrog, it makes you concentrate more on it's counterintuitive. You're holding the lulav and esrog, and you're so happy about holding that lulav and esrog. Mitzvah ninu, it's a mitzvah. V'loy tarid bahu, and it wouldn't disturb your concentration in Shemoneh Esrei. Tanya, we learned in Brisa Reb Elazar Tzadok Omer, kach haya min hagen shel Am Yerushalayim. The people of Jerusalem had this custom. In other words, their custom was like the Arizal. You're supposed to make the brechas lulav and esrog at home. The bracha, right away in the morning, you make the bracha and your yaitza. And then adam yaitza b'beis lulav b'yadi. You left your house, you're holding the lulav and esrog. Hoylech lebeis hakneses lulav b'yadi. When you ran to shul, you had your lulav in your hand. Koirei krishma mispalel lulav b'yadi. When you were reading the krishma and praying on Sukkos, you had the lulav in your hand. Koirei b'toirav and noises kapav. Let's say they called you up for an aliyah. There you need your both hands, or you're a kohen and you're doing the duchening. Manicha al gabe karka, you could put the lulav and esrog on the floor because that's not a bizayon. It's only for a short period of time. But if you go on Chalamoid Sukkos, levaka choylim, to visit the sick, to comfort a mourner. Now there is no mourning on Yontif, but generally, if someone lost a relative on Yontif, people would come to make him feel good. It wasn't the mitzvah of Nichem Avelim, but just a chesed to be with him. So even when you went to visit the sick or comfort a novel, lulav biyadai, you went with your lulav in your hand the whole day. Nichnas lebeisa medrash, when you went to learn and then you were learning deeply, then mishager lulav biyad benoy biyad ava biyad shlucha. You don't put it on the floor because you're learning for a long period of time and you can't concentrate in your learning holding a lulav and esrog. Then you send it all home with your son or your servant or your messenger. Everybody needs a helper. That's what you see. My kamash malan. What's this whole point of this whole brisa? To tell you how the people of Jerusalem were, how diligent they were, and so joyful that they had the mitzvah of lulav and esrog.
So it seems like the lulav and esrog, it was enhancing anything else that they were doing, any other avoda they were doing.
Right. They just held on to it throughout the whole days, no matter all 7 days. It's
Yeah.
almost something similar that you have that there's the Gra says that although the first matzah that you eat, that's the main mitzvah, there's also an inyan to eat matzah during Pesach, whenever you can,
Yeah.
you should
Yeah.
eat matzah. So here
Yeah.
also you yotze the mitzvah by the first shake, but having it with you the whole time, it's unbelievable that their whole day was just holding a lulav and esrog.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
good night, everybody.
It's
No.
Parak in the Mishnah. It's Mishnah and Parak Yittes and Shabbos.
Ah, the first Mishnah,
Parak Daled.
Mishnah
Mishnah Daled.
Dalet.
Mishnah,
Yeah.
yeah. Perak
I'll write it
Daled, Yutes. I got it. Thank you, Al.
Yes, thank you so
You
much.
taped it
Wow.
tonight and you put it in. Did you put it in YouTube, by the way?
Yes, I'll put it on YouTube. I'm going to
Very
put it on
good.
YouTube. Mitzvah Shabbat.
Good
Okay,
night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.